Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are really struggling to get out of a toxic relationship, then keep watching this video. I'm going to give you the blueprint on how to get out quickly and safely. Maybe you really have tried to end things before and somehow you just keep getting pulled back in. You might very much be done, but just are unsure of how you're actually going to leave now. Having that uncomfortable conversation, it's following through with what you say. What is the next 1, 2, 3 going to be for me after I have this conversation? If you're dealing with someone narcissistic, if you're dealing with someone who's kind of volatile and you know is probably going to explode when you have this conversation, that is another level of stress and anxiety that you have on yourself that you're trying to deal with. And that's what this video is about. So today we are gonna build our safety blueprint. So get out your notepad and write this down. Number 1, you are going to create a plan. This involves you deciding, are you moving out? Do you want this person to move out? If you are moving out, where are you moving to? Finding an area, finding a new place, doing that little bit of research. And this blueprint that we're doing right now necessarily doesn't mean that you're gonna need first, last, and deposit and be actually getting a new apartment or buying a new house. It just means that you're starting to think about really what are your options and where would you go? What are the sort of things that you know that even though you might be sad that you're leaving this situation, we haven't even gotten into actually accepting any of this stuff, but these are kind of the kinks that we're trying to work out and figure out what do we need next. If you know that you don't wanna move out and hopefully this person will move out, then you have to kind of come up with 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, very easy. Okay, they move out. Great. Then you get to stay here and all is well. Option 2 is they don't want to move out and now you're having to live with them until either you both find another apartment, sell your house, etc. So you're going to have to figure out space in this new house where you can have your own privacy and they can have theirs. Next, you're going to figure out your financial situation. Now, if you're married, you might want to start thinking about having a consultation with an attorney to figure out just what your options are. It's always best to just straight up educate yourself, but also remember when you go into this consultation that this is a consultation and this person is giving you advice. It might be advice based on majority of situations that they've been in and that the cases that they've tried, but that is not every single person that is going to happen to. So I just want you to make sure that anytime you talk to any kind of professional, when it comes to divorce, separation, all of those things, just take it with a grain of salt. Do not start getting wrapped up in fear and worry and insecurity and overthinking and stress and all of those things because it's very easy to go down that road. If you're not married and you don't have to go down that road, then you want to start thinking about your financial situation in terms of what is this next chapter, meaning the apartment, bills, everything. What is that going to, how is that going to affect you and kind of reconstructing maybe a new budget. You can also start thinking about if it applies to you, what are you going to do next? Were you a stay-at-home mom? Do you need to start working? Do you need to start working more? Do you need to change careers? Now, here's the thing with this blueprint that we're going over. It can be really stressful. It's hard to start thinking about all these areas that have to change in your life and not feel overwhelmed. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take a deep breath. We are not trying to figure out every single one of these things, but we're just getting organized on some of the things that we're going to have to start thinking about, if not really figuring out before we even have this conversation. Number 3, this is probably one of the most, if not the most important thing that you are going to do. We're going to start working on inner strength. Because guess what? You're not going to be able to do 1, you're not going to be able to do 2, you're not going to be able to start really thinking about your life and planning things out. And you might be really excited about your future. Maybe you're not scared out of your mind, but it's still going to require you to do the work on yourself. I don't care what anyone says, everything that's on this blueprint, majority of it are things that are a little logical and you just have to figure out. And yes, it might be a lot, but once you start checking things off and you have found a place, maybe got a new job, thought about what you want to do next, all of those things, and they start actually happening, you feel great. Working on your inner strength, that's going to require another level of work that you probably have never done before. If you're also dealing with someone who's highly narcissistic, very manipulative, cutthroat, this is not going to be a fun dance that you're about to do with this person. You are going to have to work on yourself because you're going to need every amount of strength that you have to be able to go toe to toe with this person, especially if you have to divorce this person, especially if there are kids involved. If you've ever gotten your body in shape, for example, and you don't have ever had to lose 20 pounds pounds or got your body in shape, you at least have common sense to know how this is going to work. You might have hired a personal trainer in the past. They helped you with your diet, they helped you with your mindset, they helped you with your expectations, they helped you with your physical body. Well, guess what? I'm going to be your personal trainer for your mind. You can listen to what I'm about to say and you can either do it and take it and actually see progress, or you can just say, you know what, I think all those things are stupid. I don't think they're going to work, and you can keep doing exactly what you're doing right now. Totally up to you. That's your free will. But I'm going to tell you, number one, you need to start listening to affirmations. Every single night before you go to bed, you should be listening to something 8 hours while you're sleeping. It requires nothing of you, and it will transform your subconscious mind. And guess what? Your subconscious mind is what runs your show every day, all day. It's where 95% of your thoughts come from. It's how you feel about yourself. It's everything emotional that's ever happened to you is in your subconscious mind. And the only way you can ever reprogram yourself or work on yourself is if you access that part of yourself, because you have been in a situation, in a relationship, and let's not even just blame it on this person. You probably had a lot of this stuff still living inside of you even prior to this relationship. So let's start reprogramming. Let's start healing some of that stuff. Let's start creating better habits, and they're going to start first in your mind. Number two, you are going to get physical exercise. I don't care what you say, this process is going to be stressful. And if it's going to be stressful, you are going to have to figure out how to deal with the excess energy, the sadness, the anger, the frustration that you are feeling. Working out does not mean you have to go every single day and do an hour or 2 hours at the gym. Does not mean you have to hire a personal trainer, but it does mean that you have got to move your physical body. Half of the things that we feel, anxiety, depression, being in a funk, all of those things, granted, it's not just black and white, but a big part of that is your physical health, being able to really release and get all of that stuff that's inside of you out. Fear, worry, overwhelm, stress, all of those things. You are going to go on YouTube. I don't care where you go. You can go on TikTok, save the video, whatever. You are going to create a playlist of anything motivational, anything that kind of inspires you, anything that after you listen to it, you're like, okay, I believe things are going to get better. Like, I feel amped up right now. I don't care if it's a song, I don't care if it's a motivational speaker, I don't care what it is, but you need to be listening to something that is going to shift your mind from fear to fearless. So every time you feel worried, you feel stressed, you feel anxious, you are going to put on that playlist and you are going to do whatever it is that you were doing, but you're going to consciously be listening to what it is that they're saying. And you're going to keep listening to it until you eventually buy into it. You are now starting to practice the discipline of not allowing yourself to fall down the rabbit hole every single time you have an uncomfortable thought, and not let those things hold you back. These things are so powerful and they're so small, and people don't realize just how much weight they actually hold, but this is going to help you to overcome fear. Number 4, I want you to start learning. Again, I don't care if you're reading a blog, podcast, YouTube video, TikTok, whatever. Learn about law of attraction, learn about vibration, learn about thoughts, learn about how things actually come to fruition. So at this point in your life, you might not necessarily be thinking about your future in terms of, yep, I want to get married again. Yep, I want to go on a date. No, you're kind of still in survival mode, but I do want you to start practicing having more discipline over where your mind goes. And if you really understand how much of an impact your thoughts have on not only how you feel, but your future, you are going to start being more diligent on where your mind actually goes, and you're going to start having more control over yourself. So by now, you're probably starting to judge yourself a little bit for waiting as long as you did. And that's very normal, very natural. You start listening to things like this, you might start to get a little excited about your future. You might actually get a little sad, but either way, there's always a point in all of us where we kind of judge ourselves for not leaving sooner. Why didn't I leave sooner? How could this have happened? Why didn't I see the red flags? You might even move into a little bit of self-doubt. Like, what if I never meet anyone again? What if I can't do this? What is my life gonna look like after this? Just so you know, we all have fears, we all have insecurities and things of that sort, and the unknown is very scary at times for a lot of people. But that right there that you're thinking is gaslighting and manipulation that you're doing on yourself to keep yourself stuck. When you've been exposed to gaslighting and manipulation for years and years, you're gonna start asking yourself questions like, Is this relationship really even that bad? Am I overreacting? Will I ever heal from this? Am I really the problem? I get it that sometimes it's normal to kind of judge yourself for staying as long as you did. And that's only because you're educating yourself now and you know way more now than you did before. So it's very easy to look back and judge yourself for not doing anything different. But guess what? Trigger warning here. You stayed because you didn't know any better and you weren't strong enough. It's an ugly truth, but it is the truth. You were either severely codependent and relied on this person way too much for way too many things. Maybe you wanted to save them because that's the codependency in you, or maybe you wanted to be saved because that's what your wounds are telling you that you need, someone to save you. Maybe you stayed for the kids. Maybe you stayed for like the hope that things would get better. Maybe you stayed for the dream life that you thought that you wanted with this person. You're probably one of those people that is just loyal to a fault and really struggle at times with knowing when enough is enough. So now you're here and you literally can't deny it anymore. You are stuck in this feeling of, I don't want to be in this relationship any longer. You could be anxious and depressed and stressed. If you are seriously still blaming yourself or living in a lot of shame and guilt, you're just really struggling to move on. You're crying every day. You really are depressed. You're super stressed and you don't know what to do. I want you to click the link below. I'll actually do it up here as well for you guys. Like, book a session. I'm telling you, I will teach you why you stayed and just what you need to be doing to get out of this relationship. So now you are going to start working on those 4 things because you are going to become a different person. And how you're going to start to see this difference is going to be in your communication. You are going to start talking about your boundaries. Now, if you feel strong enough to just like have that uncomfortable conversation where you're like, okay, this is going to be the breakup divorce conversation that we have, great. But it's not even just about getting up the courage to have that conversation. It's going to be, and this is the hardest part sometimes, is the follow through with what it is that you say you're going to do. For some people like myself, I know in the past when I've ended relationships, the uncomfortable breakup conversation, once that happened, I actually felt relief and felt free because now I had something to hold myself accountable. I said it and now I have to follow through. For some people, it could be the opposite. They might be able to say it all day long, but the follow through is really where they struggle. Whereas for me, it was just the struggle to have that initial conversation. Sometimes the hardest thing with having the conversation is honestly the uncomfortable vibes that are going to happen after. Like now you have to do the conversation all over again with friends, with family, with in-laws, and you're just like rehashing it and it's exhausting. And this is why the whole like working on yourself thing, it's important. Like you're going to have to find something that will help you to get into Zen mode. So yes, physical exercise, getting outside, going for a walk, I don't care what it is, move your body, but I also want you to think about like what actually centers me. That is going to be hugely important during this transition, especially if you have to go to court with this person. I want you to understand that you are about to have a conversation that maybe for this other person is coming completely out of left field. Maybe not. Maybe there have been like things going on in the relationship and so this isn't really a shocker, but if you're, especially if you're dealing with someone narcissistic, this is not going to be a pretty conversation. So if you don't start like working on yourself in those ways that we talked about and like really having and finding, maybe even for the first time in your whole life, like that real confident inner strength, knowing how to respond and not react, when things start getting heated, you're gonna get pulled back into the drama. Sometimes just distancing yourself from someone, and maybe you don't have to like break up yet or, initiate the divorce, but just like giving yourself some space and do it in a way where it's not as obvious. Remember, maybe you're making excuses, or maybe, you've just been really busy, or just something is happening where you're starting to just give yourself a little bit of space. Like this is going to help you mentally so much. It's just going to help you maybe to get some clarity, maybe to start finding that real inner strength that you definitely need, or maybe you've already had this like uncomfortable breakup conversation and now you definitely need space from this person. So maybe you're willing to leave the apartment or the house and move into somewhere else. Maybe you're willing to sleep on your friend's couch for a couple weeks until you can, find a new place to live. Like maybe you're willing to do whatever you have to do in order to just reduce those interactions as much as possible. If you did have that breakup conversation, this is where yeah, you might want to start initiating separation or divorce stuff or who's going to take what, but you want to limit like the actual interaction. So maybe we're just doing email, maybe we're just doing phone calls. If you know divorce is going to be in your future, maybe you want to start thinking about like your first proposal. If you've already consulted with an attorney, maybe you want to think about what are the things that you really do want, and learning about, especially if you're dealing with like a high conflict person, if you're dealing with someone who's very witty, very manipulative, very relentless, you want to start understanding this person very well. Know thy enemy. We want to understand this person really well so we know what we have to do or the angles in which we should come from in order to kind of get what we want. Like you're going to have to learn how to play the game, and you're going to have to learn how to not take what this person throws back at you personally. After everything that you've been through in this relationship and even prior, this now is about you and finding peace and finding happiness and figuring out what that means for you. And some of this is really going to be trial and error, but I want you to understand that your thoughts and your emotions are going to shape your reality. And if this is ending, yes, you're going to have to go through like the normal things, grief, sadness, anger, and you're going to ebb and flow in between all of those. And that's not what this is about necessarily, but it is about learning how to feel what you need to feel and be able to not stay stuck in a feeling for too long. It is also about understanding that what people do, what people say, how people respond has nothing to do with you, and learning how to really manage your emotional state when you're dealing with your own triggers or how this person does trigger you. You now want to start working on your inner self so you can start attracting situations, a new life, maybe a new person, if you're ready, that matches your energy. Like you want to be finding the people that like swim in your pool so life can be a lot easier than what it's been before. Breakups, leaving a marriage, having to get divorced, having to co-parent, like all of that is under the heading of that sucks, because no one really thinks about something ending when they're starting something. And yes, there are plenty of like good times that were had, but this is about where you're at right now and whether or not you're actually happy with who you are and who you're with at this phase of your life. The only way you're going to get out of this quickly and safely is how much work you're going to do on yourself in order to be able to go toe-to-toe with this person. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're interested in working with me, because I know that this is a process. This is not something that's easy to do. I'm not saying 1, 2, 3, 4, do all these things and just, okay, yep, I'm gonna do them every single day and then I'm good. A lot of these things you don't even know how to do because it's not something that you've ever done. So really diving into your own self-development, investing in yourself is highly recommended, especially going through this process. So if you do ever wanna work with me, take any of my courses, I always link everything down below. I hope you are well for this season of life that you are going through. I wish you all the best, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.